How's it going? Keeping Pronk here. Okay, so today we're going to do a bit of a Q&A. Got a question coming in, so thought best to answer it. So the question is, what is the difference between bankruptcy and liquidation? The big confusion, I guess, arises here because a lot of other countries use the term bankruptcy kind of interchangeably, America being one of those. So a company can go bankrupt in America and all that kind of stuff. It gets a little bit confusing. So in New Zealand, bankruptcy is for people, liquidations, companies. So that's pretty much how you define it. One is personal, one is for companies and other entities. So if we flick over here to the Insolvency and Trustee Service website, great resource if you've never used it, and you want to just come into, now we scan down a little bit, here we go. So we've got personal debt, and let's have a look at personal insolvency options, easiest way to do it, okay? So if you go down right here, bankruptcy, for people. So there's two other formal options if you're a person kind of looking at insolvency. I'm not going to go into them in detail, but we'll cover them quickly. So you've got debt repayment order. So that's for someone who is less than $50,000 in debt, and they're able to make repayments towards that debt. And they'll set out a plan, and you'll have someone who helps you manage it. And it's a formal process. There's an agreement that goes in place, and you will pay X amount over X time frame for X amount of years to pay these creditors back the amount they're due. The other one is a no asset procedure. So that's the same, less than $50,000 in debt. As it says, you have no assets, so you've got no house or anything like that, and you don't have extra money to make any repayments. It's effectively a lesser form of bankruptcy, so they will wipe a lot of the debts. There's some that aren't wiped, but the bulk of them are. And then you're released out the other end. But unlike bankruptcy, it's only a year long and there's a lot less restrictions. And then the last one is the biggest, baddest one of them all. Bad an inappropriate term. But bankruptcy, which is the one where you have no other options and it's all perhaps gotten a bit much or someone placed you into bankruptcy. There's also a handy comparison table if you want to have a look at that. And it shows you the differences between each of the options. So you've got the different act it's administered under, application methods, and then it goes through all the restrictions and limitations. We can do another video on this if you guys do want to go into detail. So you've got the debt repayment order and then what it's all about. So as I said, 3 to 5 years. You've got the no asset procedure, 1 year. Then you've got the two different types of bankruptcy, which is debtor's application and a creditor's application. One is you make yourself bankrupt and one is someone else has made you bankrupt. And they are both 3 years from the date you file an acceptable statement of affairs. Okay, so that's bankruptcy. So that answers that side of it. What is bankruptcy and what's the difference between that and liquidation? So that's for personal. Then we will flick over to the old MVP website because that's a handy resource to have as well. And we will go down to insolvency and liquidation. Okay, so liquidation is for companies. Now, you've got a couple of different kinds. You've got a voluntary liquidation for insolvent companies. That's where a shareholder decides it's all gotten a bit much, they sign a shareholder resolution and appoint a liquidator. The court-appointed liquidation, which is where a creditor chases you into liquidation, so it's chased your company, and they appoint their own liquidator of choosing, or if they choose not to choose one, then the official assignee will get appointed, the last call default liquidator. And then there's also a voluntary liquidation, which is where it's the shareholders again, and there's money left over after all the creditors are paid, and what happens there is any creditors that are still sitting there get paid and the surplus funds get distributed back to the shareholders. So the other options you have that are outside of the liquidation space, but also for companies. So the first lot were for people, and there was liquidations, which is company. You've got a voluntary administration. This one, for want of a better term, it is a pricey option and is not suitable for every situation. There's a lot of paperwork that goes in behind the scenes, and it's an effective tool, but it needs to be used in the right situation. It's not for every situation, but admittedly neither is liquidation. It's like anything, you need to pick the right tool for what you're dealing with. So have a read of this information or talk to someone about it and they'll be able to advise you. You've got creditor compromises, which is where you go and talk to the creditors and come to some form of agreement. And then the other one is you have a receivership where a secured creditor, be that the shareholder directors for funds they advanced at the very beginning and took security, or someone who's advanced funds later down the line, will appoint someone to realise their assets on their behalf. And they, that's basically what a receivership is. They can run any of these So voluntary administration, receivership, and liquidation, you're all able to continue to run the company with those appointment forms. They're all very formal appointments. None of these are informal. We're just dealing with the formal ones that have some statutes behind them. And so that covers it for liquidations. So you've got bankruptcy, personal, liquidation, company. If you've got any questions, give us a call, normal stage, contact us page. You can flick me a message. That's one of the easiest ones. That's how I get these questions. The other one is subscribe to our newsletter. Always good times, useful information comes out through that. All right, enjoy.